And if you are just watching, this is Atonuv Open Studio. At any time, you can send a mix in to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. It's that email down there. There are some guidelines scrolling at the top of the screen. And you're always welcome to drop a question into chat or say hey. And yeah. Oh, yeah. So the I'm a couple followers away from being able to enable subscriptions on Twitch, but also I lose my rights to simulcast to YouTube if I do that. So I might not even do that because I have a good amount of people that can only watch on YouTube at this moment. There is the Patreon that basically does the same deal. That's down there. But I also just like doing this, so it's all good. Mm-hmm. And I did just start the YouTube, so here we are. If you're catching the repeat, this is Atonuv Open Studio here every single day. It's 6 p.m. Eastern. We have a couple of things on the horizon and a couple of things that I'm working on. Cool. Good to see ya. Thanks for stopping by again. Okay, so the beginning of the stream housekeeping. Here we are, 6 p.m. Eastern every single day. At the end of the month, I'm working on getting the exact date. We're going to have Magoo from Omaha come into the stream and premiere their single. I did the engineering on that, so it's going to be a really cool chat. And we're going to talk all about like getting like home studios to work. They did a great job of getting like a really good home studio sound, and it was really easy to work with their stuff. And they were also really easy to work with on like every part of production and mixing. So we're going to talk all about that. We're going to talk about the mix, and like I'll put it on the screen and blow it up, and we'll look at all the individual stuff. That's going to be at the end of January. So note that. And then the rule, and this has not been an issue at all, but for the next like little bit of time, I'm gonna announce it at the beginning of the stream. Keep chat positive and like towards like constructive criticism when people send tracks in. This has literally never been a problem. No one has ever said anything mean, but as we get more people in, I just want it to be like a crystal clear rule. I've been doing this for a couple of months, and it's really awesome to be able to hear like stuff that is in the very beginning of the production process, or sometimes it's stuff that like needs a lot of work, but then people work on it and it sounds better because like that's how like life is. Like you can work on it and it gets better. And I never want someone to feel discouraged from sending something in. So we keep it posy. That's the rule. Okay, so there's that. And then there is the daily Patreon shout out. I think I'm going to do it at the beginning of streams from now on. Sometimes I just do it in the middle, but daily Patreon shout out. Thank you to Mason, Tyler, Sinux, Elias, and Ian. It's greatly appreciated, and I am coordinating with y'all. I'm going to do for the patrons and the people who support the stream. I'm going to make a little like promotion link on my webpage, and folks can send in whatever they're working on at any given time, and I'll highlight it on that page and point people to the page at the beginning of the streams and throughout the streams, because I need to talk about stuff. So that's in the works. Sometime next week, I'll have that page up. I think that's it. I think that's all the housekeeping stuff. So right back into carnival barking. This is a ton of open studio. I'm here every single night starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you've been working on a mix and would like some fresh perspective on it, feel free to send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. It is that email right there. There are some guidelines for sending in tracks up top. It's mostly about just like sending files instead of links, and stuff that you're comfortable with. You can tell me to mute it on stream. And also, if you're doing a cover or you're using like a bunch of samples or it's like a remix or whatever, you gotta tell me, because otherwise I'm gonna just get a million copyright strikes, y'all. So please let me know. Please read the thing. So that is, yeah, that's the rules. And oh, thank you for the follow. Nice to have you here. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's the whole spiel. Oh, if you're catching this on Facebook, just know that I very rarely get like active notifications from Facebook while I'm live. So send me an email or head over to Twitch. Yeah, absolutely. That is what I am here to do. If you want to send that track on over to atonuvrecords@gmail.com, I'll give it a listen and I'll help you out. Oh, cool. My buddy Christian just sent in a track. I'm going to get this downloaded. Christian, I guess just let me know if you're here. And like I said, I don't get like Facebook stuff that often. But yeah, I'm grabbing your track right now. Christian, I hope you're good. I haven't seen people in such a long time. It's good to hear from you. Cool. And oh, if you could send me the file, I would prefer to download it. It's much easier to get it to play through my system with all of the routing that has to happen to stream and get it into my room and my monitors and my room correction. It's actually much better if I can get the download. Cool. And I am not seeing an email from you, so make sure it's Atonuv, ATONUV records@gmail.com. It could also just be taking a while, but it's also a made-up word, so sometimes it doesn't work for everyone. So while you get that link, while you get that track ready, I'm gonna throw Christian's track in. Let's give that a listen.
In the summer, there's a place I know I like to go. It's quiet, it's cool, and I've got to get out of the city.
No worries, we'll help you dial in those vocals.
It's been making you feel kinda shitty, and you deserve more than my pity. It's such a short drive. The water's so fine. I know I like to go, it's quiet, it's cool, and I've got to get out of the city. In the nighttime, it's right to be stealthy and sure. Stealthy and sure. Stealthy and sure.
Cool, let's run through this. So, cool track, rock track. Love a good rock tune. Let's go bottom to top. So, kick and bass are fighting. There's no kick as a result. The bass has really, really, really good mid-range tone, so which is good. Like that's usually not the case. So the bass is going to be super present and drive the track, and you can totally get away with shaving out a bunch of the bottom end on that bass to make room for the kick. Kick doesn't exist. There's that little bridge section where the bass stops, and then we can hear the kick. So it's a big mask. So just peel away like 30 to 60 on the bass, and then your kick's gonna work. So kick and bass. There's also like a bunch of stuff below like 30 happening, and on something like this, we can just like throw that all in the trash. So high pass that out. We'll get more room on the back end. So bass and kick, dial that in. We're in good shape. And then we have like a lack of mid-range definition from 1 to 2K happening. So we can just spread some life and some sparkle on like vocals and guitar and just let that edge up a little bit. The piano is really hot in the left side, and I basically just turn it down. That would be just a balance thing. And it's kind of like playing guitar it's kind of like it's really hot over here, and then guitar on the other side is pretty low. So they would kind of want to get balanced out. And then you could play around with like there's the good old like Radiohead LCR. If you're doing hard panning, it's sometimes a great idea to throw like a pre-delayed reverb out on the other side of the speaker and like mangle it with some filters and stuff so that it kind of passes through, and we get the huge stereo separation without losing definition, and that's a trick worth trying. And the vocal is S-ing at 8K. That's it. Yeah, an MP3 is totally fine. Yeah, it sounds awesome. Good track. And I do have a Discord. There's a link down at the bottom of Twitch. Okay. Okay, awesome. Yeah, you're in the Discord. Yeah, if anyone is watching, there is a Discord. There's like 10 of us now. So, it is picking up steam. The eventually it's going to be a really, really cool place to collaborate on stuff and all of that. There's a lot of really cool people involved. All right. Ask Kitty. Is it like Ask Kitty? Is that, am I interpreting it correctly? Let's check out your track. A1 Skitty. Cool.
Mellowed out, double trouble, looking for a little cuddle. I've been working double doubles, trying to fix your stomach troubles. What's with all the hubble bubble? Babe, I thought we were a couple. I don't want this muffled rumble to become a bigger trouble. Fight so long, I'm growing stubble. Babe, you know that you're my muscle. Lift me up when I'm in struggle. Always kept me staying humble, make me laugh and kinda trouble. But you ran a big ass hustle, cheated with my homeboy Russell. Now my vision's getting tunneled. I'm pissed off, I start to grumble. Babe, I thought we were a couple, not just playing. I'm not mad, matter of fact, I'm kinda glad. Don't have to hear you whining sad. I'd still fuck you cause you were bad, but you a hoe and that's not rad. So I left and got a bag. Thanks so much, don't need a cab. Found me a new girl from a mag. I'm so glad cause you were a drag. I think it's funny how you did sag. Plus you always fucking nag. Felt like I was getting stabbed every time you fucking flabbed. Honestly though, I'm just happy to be solo again. Bye.
All right. Basically, vocals are too hot. So I would start with that.
Mellowed out, double trouble, looking.
So the vocals are too on top of the mix. Just start with that. Bring them a little bit back, and then the beat doesn't have any info in the mid range, so it's not like there is stuff to edit on the vocals themselves, but it's also they need an environment to live in. So we gotta give definition in the mids on the beat, so that the vocals have like like a bed to lay in. First and foremost, that's where we're at. There's also not a lot of like perceived low end on that beat. We would want to beef it up between like 100 and 200. That'll feel a little bit better. And then towards the end of this, you start to get ahead of the beat. You got to just like relax a little bit, especially if you're trying to get like your enunciation is good. That's cool. But you're trying to get a lot out there, and you got to just pull back a little bit or slice that up and time correct it. Then it's going to feel like it's sitting like better in time. That is Demo Loop. What's up? Good to have you. And then, so it's like, and then the vocal, besides being like too hot and like those couple of issues right there, it's actually a pretty good bass sound. It doesn't sound bad. Like, we don't have a lot of like extra stuff happening. We don't have a lot of stuff that we got to like get rid of. It's pretty clean. It's a good recording. How to spice it up is once that's always awesome to hear. If you want to send it in, I'd be happy to see where it's at. And also, I just like hearing when stuff gets better. Okay, so that vocal, once it's sitting in a little bit better place and like more in the mix, and then like either some time correction on that back half or just do it again. Um, then, within this style, it's like we want to throw like ad libs and effects tracks and stuff in. Take a look at, you know, like YouTube, like trap vocal effects, and it's stuff like you just take the vocal, split it out, and then like throw it into a pitch shifter, put it an octave down, give it some delay and verb, and then just occasionally automate that send, so that you get that little bit of spice and that little bit of effect on the vocal. And it'll be cool, and it's especially like within like with what I'm hearing in the beat and what I'm hearing with the delivery, it's like we want to put in that little bit of ear candy, and all that. And that's like end game stuff. So it's basically like the beat needs definition between 100 and 200 so that we get low end. The beat needs definition in the 500 to 2K region, certainly. And then the vocal, a little bit less on top, and then time correct the delivery, and then it's going to sit nicely. I do private lessons for sure. If you wanna DM me later, we could figure something out. That's cool. Like like starting on learning this stuff is definitely you know, it can be tricky, and it's yeah. Sorry if it was too much, but yeah, we can go into like exactly how to do it for sure. All right, if anyone is just popping in, this is a ton of open studio here every single night starting at 6 p.m. Uh, cool. Yeah, Skitty, have a good game. I'll talk to you later. So this is a ton of open studio. If you are working on a mix and would like some fresh perspective from an audio engineer, you can send it to a ton of records at gmail.com. I'll help you get that mix really sound at its absolute best. There are some guidelines for submitting tracks scrolling at the top of the screen if you don't mind giving that a read. If you are catching this on Facebook, just know that I do not reliably get Facebook notifications on live videos, Facebook stuff. So email me or head on over to the Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Atonuv, and we can chat more reliably there. Awesome. I'm happy that that worked for you. That makes a lot of sense. Like if you're uh mixing into a bunch of compression and limiting, uh if you like eventually, like I know people that do it, but it's after you've like these are people that have done like thousands of mixes, and it's like, oh yeah, I know exactly what I want at every single stage, and it can exist as a shortcut once you like really know what you're listening for. But like I said, these are like old dudes doing it. I figured you'd get a clearer picture. That's cool. Yeah. Even if we're just still in process. As long as it's getting better, that's awesome. All right. It's still just processing the link, so might take a minute. Yeah, there's at the bottom of the Discord, I mean, thank you. There is a link to the Patreon and a tip page down at the bottom. That does exist. Yeah, I probably don't like advertise it as much as I could. And then yeah, let's see if still processing the link. Thank you for the donation. That's awesome. You're the first one. Thank you. That's awesome. I'm glad it works. All right. Finish processing. I'm going to download it. Cool. Let's give this a listen.
And it's only in my dreams that I get to hold you. But I'm patiently thinking that someday you want me to. And I've been out of my mind for you. I don't have enough time, it's true. Stumble back home so drunkenly, saying that you wanna make love to me. I know why. Not your commodity, taking me for granted, now you gotta leave. I don't wanna hear your apologies, no more lies. Ooh, yeah, and I know
This is
where
a
you've
lot
been
better.
tonight. Ooh, yeah, and I know she don't treat you right. Ooh, yeah, baby, you do this to yourself. If you ain't happy by my side, you should go and find someone else. Ooh, yeah, and I know where you've been tonight. Ooh, yeah, and I know she don't treat you right. Ooh, yeah, baby, you do this to yourself. If you ain't happy by my side, you should go and find someone else. And I'm breathless, waiting for you to save me. But it's hopeless, hoping for you to notice me. And it's only in my dreams that I get to hold you. But I'm patiently thinking that someday you'll want me to. I've been up my mind for you.
Oh, right on, right on.
I don't ever love
Cool. So it loops. That's great. It sounds way better. Like much better. This is there's significantly more detail. There's significantly more perceived loudness, more perceived low end. It is much better. There are a couple of things to address. That vocal has a lot of harsh T sounds. There's a lot of tuzz. And it's like right around like let me grab it. It's like at
it's true. And I've been up my mind, I've been up my
like 10K. And you could grab it with a de-esser. It's also, if you have any sort of like Waves X click or Isotope RX mouth declick would be the absolute best tool for the job. But it's like, it is sibilance, but it's also a little bit of a mechanical noise, so we could declick it and grab it. But it's like right around 10K, and I would get rid of that. It's definitely in there a little bit too much. And then you could actually squeeze like a little more perceived bass if you wanted this to be bassier, and generally people want it to be bassier. Between like 100 and 200, you could bring out a little more low end. And there's also room for like a little more like just body at like 200 in like snare or bass if you want it. But that exists. You've got some room there. And then the only thing that's on a bigger level, it's just like, I know that you've been working on this for a while. The file is called Test 9. So this just speaks to like a bigger thing. And it's probably more of like a future note, because like reworking this from the ground up is probably not appealing at this point. But basically, it's like, you got rid of the compressor, you got rid of the limiter, everything's way cleaner, more dialed in. And the it's like this is still in the mix phase, and this is still at 0. And it's like in the future, we would want to arrange a mix so that at this stage in the process, you're getting true peaks of like -6, -12. And then you would just have more room to work and be able to get even better mixes. But like regain staging this at this point would be probably not super fun. So don't worry about that too much. But in the future, set up your session, gain stage more uh, disciplined from the very, very beginning, and aim for a lower peak volume on your peaks during mixing. Turn your monitors up so that you can feel it the way that you want to feel it, and then just start your templates from there. So that's just speaking towards the future. That's speaking towards a bigger thing that isn't necessarily a problem. Like, right? I mean, theoretically, this mix would be like a little bit better, but it's very good where it's at. Um, yeah, saturating the vocal could definitely be bringing it out at 10K. So just see if you dial that back if it eases up on that. But we're looking at like 10K is where the problem is. And yeah, more bass is good. You can crank up the bass by like 2 or 3 dB um, on 100 to 200. Okay, cool. Yeah, if you feel like it. So it's like I would go in and it's like so like really um like really detailed gain staging. It's like on every single plugin. It's like from track to track we like if we're using a compressor or an EQ that has a post gain control, it's like we make our changes and then we dial back that gain and just control levels that way. And then like in between plugins that don't have a gain output, we throw a mix tool or a gain plugin and gain control on all those tracks. And what we would want to be seeing, so like right now, this track is peaking at point. It's over 0. We've got peaks at like 0.3, which wouldn't really want to see that ever. We would want this to be looking more like this, and not squared off. Like we would want to see a little more dynamic range here. We're hitting a ceiling for sure on these peaks. It's not bad. We're not totally sausaged out. But yeah, we would want to see peaks at like -6 at the end of it. And then you're going to be able to dial in a master that sounds great. Yeah, it was really close. Really close at 10K. And it's like, it's not just that I would, oh, did you master this track? Am I not seeing the mix? Am I seeing the master? Because that's gonna totally change the whole thing. But while you're answering, so the 10K vocal, um, the um, it's not just that I would EQ out 10K. I would use like if you have ozone, I would use like the dynamic EQ and then grab it at 10K and use it as like a de-esser. And it's also, I mean, it's worth noting that it is a transient, like mechanical sound, which is why it also might be best solved with like a declicker. And that might be the quickest way to address it, but also a dynamic EQ set to 10K and, set the threshold a little bit lower and duck it like 3-4 dB when it engages, and that'll probably be good. Okay, so are you doing the mix and then turning on ozone, or are you mixing into ozone? So that's a workflow question, like if you're mixing into ozone or not. Well, while you're answering that, so it's uh it's actually like your loudness is really really nice if this is the master and not the mix, but it is peaking. So you would want to turn on a true peak limiter. You're clipping even with a limiter on.
By my side, you should go and find someone else. Ooh, yeah, and I know where you've been tonight. Ooh, yeah, and I know she don't treat you right. Ooh, yeah, baby, you do this to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, other than the clipping, that's like really dialed in. And ozone is a little bit. It's okay. This isn't a bad. I mean, I wouldn't even say like knowing that this is the master. Like outside of that clipping, it's actually really really nicely controlled and it's pretty balanced. So, you know, pretty good. Pretty good work. Um, I would say I'm not sure if this is what you're doing, but like it's really important for workflow and just putting your brain into a new space. Like, don't put ozone on your mix session. Like, bounce it down and then use ozone in a whole new session. First off, ozone is really, really CPU intensive. So, like, whew, don't don't blow your computer up with that for no reason. And it's good that you're doing it after the mix, but I would go so far as to put it into a new session every single time, 100% of the time. Um, yeah, dynamic EQ might do the trick if you can't use the de-esser, or if we get into a situation where the computer can't handle what we're doing and we really, really want to nail the mix, it's like then you're gonna want to like start bouncing tracks in place, exporting them out, opening up a new session, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of a pain. Um, yeah, 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 and then big latency on ozone for sure. Yeah, just do it on a whole new session, and it'll save you some headaches and also get you a better workflow. And then you got to engage the true peak limiter on ozone, or else you're gonna get clipping. So uh, I would be really interested in seeing your mix and not the master. That would provide a lot of insight into some other stuff. So at any point, like tonight or any time, if you want to send that over, just something that hasn't been limited or anything, I would love to see. Because then I can help dial in some workflow stuff more from that. Yeah, yeah. If you want to load it up, I'll totally take a listen. And if you are just joining, this is a Ton of Open Studio. We're here every single night starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you would like some fresh perspective on your mix from an audio engineer, you can send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. It's the email right down there at the bottom. There are guidelines scrolling at the top of the screen if you want to take a look at those before you send it in. I will listen to your track, give it a full playthrough, a full evaluation, and help you get that mix sounding its absolute best. Okay, right on. All right, this is a Ton of Open Studio. If you are just joining, this is a nightly mix feedback live stream. You can send tracks at absolutely any time to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. There are some guidelines for sending stuff scrolling up top. If you want to give those a read, that would be great. You will get full mix evaluation feedback from an audio engineer, and I will help guide you through getting your mix to its absolute best, tighten up that low end, bring out the best bits of your performance, etc., etc., etc. Really look forward to hearing what you've got. If you are just joining, this is a Ton of Open Studio, here every single night starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you've been working on a recording and would like some fresh perspective from an audio engineer, you can just send your mix to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. There are some guidelines for submitting up top, and I will happily take a listen to what you're working on and help you get it sounding its absolute best. Yeah, so sample rate is different than the frequency spectrum. So uh yeah, you're good. It makes sense. Are you putting a high cut on your entire master? I would if that's the case, I mean, like the cut at 16 kilohertz and the 48 kilohertz sample rate kind of like unrelated to each other, but I would recommend against doing that cut if that's what you're doing. Especially on like dance music, we generally have it extended all the way up to 20. Just a just a recommendation. Yeah, like on a modern master, it's generally we're going to be doing the opposite. We're going to be using something like an exciter or like the Kush Clariphonic is on like a lot of mastering desks at this exact point, and it's specifically built to boost um like above 20 and then kind of gently lift from like 16K on up. So like a lot of modern electronic productions are smiley facing, but smiley facing at like 50 and like 18 kilohertz. And we've kind of pushed the smiley face to like the very, very edges, as opposed to like 90s dance mixes are more like yeah. So that this might be a monitoring thing. Um Pushing above 16 and it's got to be very very gentle, and it's like this is why like gentle slopes on like high end exciters is really important, something like the Kush Clariphonic or the mag air band is really popular, and this is just what you see on mastering desks. By gently lifting this spectrum gently, it's what achieves the taking the blanket off of the speakers effect, and it opens up the top end and allows everything to kind of push more. And it's literally just pushing air. And it's a pretty big it's a hallmark of modern production. And once you start getting used to it on your own stuff, you start to hear it on other people's stuff. And it can be like we can't be using like narrow bells, and we don't want to have like peaks and spiky bits up in that top end, but we want it to be gently opened. And adjusting to that is also going to be a big monitoring thing. And I can't, I'm sorry, I've probably asked you like a million times, but what are you monitoring on? So many people come onto the stream and I ask everybody this, and there's just no way I'm going to remember what everyone's monitors are. But yeah, what are you listening on? Yeah, sorry about the latency. Usually Twitch is better on the late. Usually it's better than the other streaming platforms, but it kind of varies from night to night and like where people are in the world. But it's okay. I don't mind. Um okay. Okay, HS sites totally makes sense. Um I my mixing room, I use HS8s and they are definitely a little bit hyped uh above 16K. That's where they hype a little bit naturally. So cutting in response to that makes sense. Do you have you done any room measurements? Like have you used a reference mic and gotten um uh you know uh have you gotten your frequency response for your room with like Room EQ Wizard or SonarWorks would be great. SonarWorks would absolutely fix your HS8 situation, uh, and I would recommend it. And for anyone just joining in, this is a ton of Open Studio. I'm here every single night at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you would like some fresh perspective on your mix from an audio engineer, just send your stuff to atonuvrecords at gmail.com. It's that email right down there. There are some guidelines for sending in tracks scrolling up top if you just want to give that a listen or a read. Cool. Uh were you were you hot above 16K? Or if you happen to have your room EQ uh readouts, you could send those to me and I could take a look and dial in some stuff. And then did you do any room treatment as well? Do you have any acoustic treatment in your space? Oh, yeah. 44 isn't that bad. You're not I mean it depends on how bad the null is, but I'd be pretty cool with 44. It's like yeah, send me your graphs. I'll take a look. And also, while we're getting stuff, if you don't mind telling me what you've done to treat your space, we could definitely dial in some stuff as well. For anyone just popping in, this is live mix feedback. If you've been working on something, you can send it to my email. I'll give it a listen and help you fix up your mix. That's it. You can send it to the email right down there. There are guidelines up at the top of the screen. Cool. Yeah, I mean, speaker placement. The best rule of thumb for avoiding room modes is to place your listening position 30% to 40% of the way back from the front wall. So, like almost middle of the room sounds about right. And then you want your speakers in an equilateral triangle from your head, and both of the speakers being equidistant from the side walls. Uh, Sounds like you're probably doing that. And absorbers in the corners, totally. Where are your diffusers? And diffusers would be one of the last things that I would do in a room. What I am more concerned, I think that what you would need to dial this in is a reflection free zone between your speakers and your ears. All right, that's pretty good. Yeah, so do you have the diffusers on the rear wall? Or where are those diffusers right now? Okay, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, that I would do I would toss both diffusers behind you, kind of like behind like so that the speakers are hitting them. That's the that's the most that you're going to get out of diffusion, and then honestly like diffusion is like one of the last steps that you're going to be looking for in your mix environment. Um what you would want and what's going to help dial in stuff a lot. And as soon as I get these measurements, I'll be able to speak more on it. But I bet you would benefit from a reflection-free zone. So that's with broadband absorption uh, between. So it's on the side walls, and it's just lined up between. Oh, thanks for the dono. It's just lined up between the your speakers all the way back to your ears. You can look up like if you Google it, it'll give you a whole thing about like, oh, you can have a friend like position a mirror, and then when you can see your speakers in the mirror, that's where you set up the absorption. But that's just like a huge pain in the butt, and you'll get great results if you just go like absorption from speakers to ears. Thanks for sending me these measurements. Let's take a look. Hmm. All right. Yeah, a tricky space is a tricky space for sure. And I'm definitely so like your mixes are very good. Like I've heard, a few iterations of this, and it's getting better and better, and it's like and you've got the HS8s. So I think that the HS8s are like the best monitors that you can get below below like 2 grand. So you're working with good stuff, and now it's like let's make it work. Let's put a little bit of time into making them work their absolute best. So, uh, hearing that you're like high cutting at 16K, it makes me think that uh, there's just some monitoring issues happening. Because like on a like nothing in the like pop world or the professional world is cut at 16K. It's just definitely not how stuff is coming out right now. It's the opposite. We're boosting a little bit above 16K. So it looks like you're kind of doing an opposite move. It looks like we've got like a 2 to 3 dB cut happening from 16K on down, and a lot of electronic music is hyped like 2 to 3K. I mean 2 to 3 dB, 2 dB above 16K. And I bet, and it's just like HS8s are pretty ice picky. They like that's the thing. Also, HS8s do not sound good. Like it's not fun to listen to HS8s. Like that's the entire point of the HS8 and the whole HS series and the NS10s that they're based off of. They're not pleasant. It's not once you kind of like once you get used to working on them and you get used to listening to a bunch of music on it, you start to like enjoy it, but they are not flattering. And that's why they're great monitors. Like you can find like problems and stuff, and they're very, very mid-range focused, and they're very, very, very ice picky. Um, and they don't have like flattering bass, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and I love my HS8s, but for I did switch out to Genelecs in my other room because of how fatiguing that if I'm just like working on something for a long time, I um I don't want to listen to them all day. But they're really, really great for like dialing in a mix like when I'm working really quick, like when I'm just in the zone of just like clearing a mix, the HS8s are wonderful. But when I'm doing like close listening and like detail work, and like if I'm just like writing automation on the final bit of a track, I switch to the Genelecs so that I kind of just have a nicer time. Ian, what's up? Good to see ya. Uh so it's like you're in your practice space and you're gonna record and then you just want to listen to playback in the room. Yeah, I think that totally makes sense. I'd say go for it. Um the um yeah, I mean that makes a lot more sense to me than like dragging your actual monitors to practice or like listening on headphones or like something really crappy. The HS5s would totally do it and it wouldn't be overkill. I would say that like HS8s might be overkill for the sake of what you're doing, but yeah, grab the HS5s and you could pick them up for uh you could pick that up for a reasonable amount of cash. Um Now, the question is, what is surprising you when you're listening back? Because like the HS5s, they have like no low end, so you're gonna need to make sure that that's dialed in, kind of at the source, and you're not gonna get an accurate picture. But it will tell you if it's bad because it's just super mid range focused. I was actually just talking about HS8s. Like you walked in, it's like some sort of like HS8 rate the HS radar went off in the world. Yeah. Um yeah. Uh I would totally do it. Yeah. Yeah. Now is your practice space treated? Because that's and demo loop I will get right to you. I my brain glommed onto a new thing and I'm like, "Ooh, new thing." So I would say like treat your practice space, especially if you're not getting good drum recordings. It's like just bass trap the absolute crap out of every single corner. And you'll get better drum recordings. And then it's like, you got to make sure that your overheads are uh oh, it's okay. We've been dialing in. It's been kind of it's been a really good time so far. Um Are you measuring the distance from your snare to your overheads? I'll leave you with that question for a second. And demo. I I just got the measurements. It takes like you upload it and then it has to process and then I have to download it. So I'm grabbing those right now. Um Oh, yeah. I mean, if anything, you wouldn't want to be high cutting the sides. Like having high end on the sides is what pushes our stereo imaging um so that everything sounds wide. So I'm mostly just concerned with your monitoring setup at this point. Because it's like you're just making moves that are opposite to what we want. So uh I would like in mastering, I'm I'm rarely doing mid-side processing, but when I do, it's to bring out high end on the sides uh in the in the final. Um and as far as EQing that top end, 16 to 20K, it's like on a lot of instruments I'm introducing broad like 16K boosting, like very very broad, like and like 1 to 2 dB. Um the on like a Pultec. Something like that. to bring out the. We're thinking about grabbing air out of the instruments, and we want to do it with very broad curves. So if you're feeling like things are sharp in general, it's like we don't want to just get rid of high end in totality on an instrument or a track or on the entire track. We want it to be a very, very broad, smooth lift above 16K. That's what we're looking for. It is certainly unpleasant when we have um like peak filtered like sharp bells up above 16K, but we definitely want a like nice blanket of high end. One second, I'm getting that file open. Okay, if you're and Ian, if you're measuring from your snare, then you're most of the way there on getting drum recordings. Then it's definitely evaluate them at the source. So like grabbing some decent mid-range monitors are going to help you out at the space. Um, if you want to just like tell me what mics you're using for your kit, we could maybe figure out like an optimal way to set that up. I have to download Room EQ Wizard on this system. I haven't used it here. Yeah, so demo loop, this isn't like the hugest the most important thing in the world. Like extreme low end and extreme high end is like cherry on top of a mix and a master. It's like literally the last thing we should be worried about. We should be very, very focused on mid range. Um, that's just good practice. But that icing on top, as far as like dialing in really, really clean low end and really, really like perfect shiny high end, it is the cherry on top. It is what like pushes something over into the next world. I think you have very nicely controlled low end, so that's awesome. That's not that big of a deal. Dialing in this high end and getting a little more comfortable with it would be really good. So, what are your go-to EQs at this moment? What are you using? Okay, yeah, Fab Filter is good. Uh, it is definitely good. Are you using any character EQs, like analog style EQs, SSL, Neve, API, Pultec, anything in that world? All right. I'm diving into your e into your room EQ. Okay. Um demo loop. Yeah, you're overrepresented in your upper mids. So reflection free zone is gonna it's gonna do a lot for you. I was not to brag, I was right. You got to set up a reflection free zone between your speakers and your ears, and it's gonna take care of a whole lot of stuff happening for you. Um, there is yeah. Yeah, you're overrepresented about as much as you're cutting. And then your room's actually very good. Yeah, I mean, you've got that little. Yeah, I'm just kind of going. This isn't like super exciting. I'm just reading through a million graphs. Yeah. End of the day, you throw in that reflection free zone, you're going to be in a much better place. And then I would look into Sonar Works to smooth out. Like you're very close to having a very 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 good room, and in this case, Sonar Works would deliver you that final little bit of clarity. Um, okay, so you're using Fab Filter and then like the analog mastering at Ozone. So here is what I would also recommend as far as tools. Um, So Fab Filter is really good. Parametric EQ is very good and very useful. Obviously, it's a powerful tool. I end up telling people um, the to try like not using parametric EQs on a mix and reaching for like just like set filter point analog style EQs. And then like once you dial in a mix with that, you kind of develop a new way of listening for issues. and that's just kind of where I'd go with this. That's kind of like my best thing, and like introducing that bit of sheen at like 16K with something like a Pultec sounds really, really good. And once you kind of adjust to that sound, you will get some pretty sweet results. Um, okay, I don't think that SonarWorks is super necessary, but I do recommend it all the time because I think that it does a really, really good job. It's basically perfect above 100 hertz, and it saves you a bunch of time, and it gets you to where you need to go. Um, and if you happen to already have a reference mic, then you can grab just the software for like $100. And you know, it comes with like 3 licenses, so I have it on like a laptop and a couple of desktop. Um, and I take it with me everywhere, and I like correct if I'm like on tour and I get into a room, I can like kind of figure out what's happening in the room really quick, and I just really like it. So that's why I recommend it. But yeah, you could totally dial in some corrective EQ for sure. Demo, I didn't get that unmastered version. Did you send it to my email? And I don't know how frustrating it is for people on the other end of the screen, but I kind of love bouncing back and forth. Um, I got Oh, okay. I think I missed it. I missed uh that demo. Great. Okay. Downloading your track right now. I love bouncing back and forth between a million ideas. So, um Ian, your drum mic setup. Let's look at this. Okay. Um lose the 58 on kick out, or put it, I guess you could get beater out of that. It's it's potentially going to cause you problem. I mean, I'm only being like kind of strict on that because you're getting like phasey stuff. So, are you putting that 58 on the beater side or the other side of the kick? So I guess that's a question. 57's top and bottom, great. Um Onyx on toms, sure. The mismatched condensers. Oh, okay, 50 on beater side. Then yes, you are absolved. Uh, I think that the fact that you don't have a matched condenser is probably getting you some issues. So like in general, you know, if you're using matched condensers on cymbals and you measure them from the snare, then you're going to be in good shape. But since they aren't the same, that's probably giving you some grief. As far as fixing that, it's like you're going to have to, in post, line them up. Cool. Yeah, demo loop. I'll check out your track in a couple of minutes. Um, the so that's the thing. So, are you able to multi-track everything? Can you separate everything out in post? Or is this like a situation where you're going into a mixer and you're kind of just stuck with whatever you've got? Okay. Then have you phase aligned the condensers like in post, and has it been workable, or are you still getting like kind of not great sound? And I like the iPhone room mic idea. That's pretty sweet. Oh, I mean, so lining up the like if you took the left and right condenser, and then instead of them being on like one stereo track, they were on a left right separately, and then align those two mics together. That's like phase aligning the cymbal mics with each other, and then to the snare, and then to the kick. Okay. Yeah, if it still doesn't sound great, then you're just dealing with that mic mismatch. And I'm not sure that you're going to be able to fix it outside. I mean, the other issue that's happening is if the room is really, really live, then, it could be, you could be getting, uh, phase cancellation from the room into the overheads. So, the most engineering thing to do outside of like get another microphone is like treat the room, but I'm assuming that there's like at least a little bit of that going on. Um, I think that you're just like in a bad situation with using the mismatched overheads. So, like HS5s in the practice space would be sweet, but you might be better off spending the money on just getting a matched pair of condensers. Yeah, I mean, that's basically, yeah, that's why we like line up overheads and measure them from the snare to get that, um, so that everything is time aligned. You're totally right, but I think what's happening here is the two possible issues that I could imagine are the mismatched mics are just not going to play nice with each other in a stereo image, and so then it's just kind of like hard to solve, uh, or you're getting slapped back in the room, and then that's canceling out in the room and at the microphone. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if we're talking about like you're gonna spend money on something, I think that in general HS5s in the room would be great, but okay. So what I would recommend for overheads, like my go-to are the AKG 414s. They're really nice. That's kind of like my uh, Cadillac suggestion. Um, I have and like I do like um large diaphragm condensers in general. Though I have had I picked up, they're kind of cheap. The SE Electronics pencil condensers, like a pair of those, and I've used them and gotten good results on them. Uh, those are my cheapy overheads. I'll use them as like room mics uh, in stereo. But I've tossed them on overheads before. I've used them on snare before, and it's kind of sweet. Um, and I do like using I like the 414s because I can change the polar pattern on them, and I mean I'm gonna use cardioid more often than not if you're gonna get a fixed pattern microphone. Oh, demo. I'm gonna listen to your track and it's $50 a track for mastering. That's my going rate. Used. I think I've used the M5. Let me check. I've got a buddy who swears by these. I've never personally used them. Uh, but I know someone who does, and they use them on overheads for sure. I would I mean basically anything that you get that isn't just like, like a CAD, like noisy kind of like POS. Um Anything that you get that's like of a decent build quality and is matched is gonna that's just instantly going to get you way better than where you're at, and then that's probably the bulk of the issue that you're having right now, and then room treatment is probably the secondary issue. Yeah. Oh, I mean the AKGs are wonderful on it. I mean, acoustic instruments, drums, piano, uh, choirs. I I have definitely taken those absolutely everywhere. They're really good. But also just something functional like those Rhodes is also gonna um um yeah, $50 is it's definitely I just work with a lot of like indie rock bands, and I do kind of price accordingly because I like working. That's like what I like working with. So I'm definitely on the lower end of the price bracket, but I also work really fast, so it kind of like it works out okay for me. Um, but yeah, like a pencil condenser is also useful on a variety of sources. You can use it on guitars and stuff. You can do like some like fake mid side miking and some stereo stuff and some room miking. It's not They wouldn't just be a one trick pony, that's for sure. But yeah, like as far as just thing, so my general philosophy is like don't spend money that you don't have to spend, like for sure, because like musician life is musician life. Um, True. The ba, 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 ba. I'm like throwing myself off track. The Yeah, the pencil condensers, they would be able to have more uses than just your overheads. Uh, as far as like things that I personally use, I really, really love like the Bayer dynamic mics for drums. I think that they're awesome. Um, you could also look at if you wanted something with like some flavor and is an achievable, reasonable price, the Octava mics you can find for decent prices, like on Reverb and stuff. Unless, I mean, sometimes it just depends on like when the last time Steve Albini did an interview. Because if he trends, then you'll see Octavas spike. But that is like a big part of the like Albini drum sound, and I do really like that. They're good for capturing the kit. But yeah, if grumpy old Steve hasn't opened his mouth in a while, you can score Octavas for a very reasonable amount of money. All right, demo. Let's listen to this track.
And it's only in my dreams that I get to hold you. But I'm patiently thinking that someday you want me to. And I've been out of my mind, I've been out of my mind for you. I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time, it's true. And I've been out of my mind, I've been out of my mind for you. I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time, it's true. Who are you supposed to be? Stumble back home so drunkenly, saying that you wanna make love to me. I know why. Not your commodity, taking me for granted, now you gotta leave. I don't wanna hear your apologies, no more lies. Ooh, yeah, and I know where you've been tonight. Ooh, yeah, and I know she don't treat you right.
Yep, overhead separately from MIDI drums is a great, great move.
If you ain't happy by my side, you should go find someone else. Ooh, yeah, and I know where you've been tonight. Ooh, yeah, and I know she don't treat you right. Ooh, yeah, baby, you do this to yourself. If you ain't happy by my side, you should go find someone else. And I'm breathless, waiting for you to save me. But it's hopeless, hoping for you to notice me. And it's only in my dreams that I get so drunkenly, saying that you wanna make love to me. I know why. Not your commodity, taking me for granted, now you gotta leave. I don't wanna hear your apologies, no more lies. Ooh, yeah, and I know where you've been tonight. Ooh, yeah, and I know she don't treat you right. Ooh, yeah, baby, you do this to yourself. If you ain't happy by my side, you should go and find someone else. Ooh, yeah, and I know where you've been tonight. Ooh, yeah, and I know she don't treat you right.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I'd love to master a track for you. Okay, yeah, and this loops, I guess. So, yeah, this gives me a better picture of what's going on with your workflow here. There's definitely room, and I would do all this stuff on the mix rather than the master, but like that bass from 100 to 200 could definitely get beefed up. And once again, I wouldn't go for fab filter. I would use some sort of analog EQ. It will sound better, and it'll give it a little more, not just presence in that range, but a little more meat, which is what we're looking for. And yeah, above 16K, we could definitely like on those cymbals and like even the vocal, and it's like the it would help kind of smooth out some of those issues because it's just like the vocal is stopping right where that mechanical noise is, so it's even more present than if it was smoothed out above that region. But yeah, percussion, cymbals, everything could get brightened up. I wouldn't use the fab filter. I would use a like to run down. My go-to would be the Kush Clariphonic. There's the plugin is excellent, and it's like virtually identical to the hardware. That would be my go-to. Then a Pultec would probably be in second place there. And then like the Moog EQ4 would be an option. And that's basically all I would use to bring out like that 16K on your cymbals. And it's very clear that like once everything's not getting pushed and squashed, it's just very, very, those cymbals are pretty buried, and they could just have that shimmer that just kind of like pops over the mix, and with a super gentle lift in the really, 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 really tippy top. Yeah, Clariphonic, not cheap. There is the Kush. Once again, I hate telling people to buy stuff. Like that's just definitely not like I hate doing gear talk. I hate doing like this is the thing. But like sometimes like a tool for a specific purpose is the tool. So I do like hawk the Kush plugin package. It's $10 a month. I don't like subscription services, but I do like the Kush bundle, and I do use it every single day. And I think that it is worth it. But that's that. I think Plugin Alliance has a bunch of like really decent Pultec emulations. I don't personally use any of them, but I know a lot of people who do. So yeah. I mean, like Clariphonic is like the Cadillac Rolls Royce decision like option for this task. But like a Pultec or a Pultec emulation or a Pultec style EQ. I think Plugin Alliance has the Bax EQ. That would do the trick. Just something that can tilt, something that can push really, really pleasantly in that region. I think there's other stuff out there too. Yeah, yeah, give it a search. But yeah, this mix is so much better. It's gotten so much better. I'm being like really picky uh on this extreme top end, and dialing in your room. You're just making like a systemic decision to cut what is a useful band of information in modern music production. So, and then that said, like, it's only because this is such a modern track, but like it is a viable decision. If this was like a 1960s throwback jam, uh, they cut stuff off at 16K all the time. Earliest speakers like for the first few Beatles albums, they weren't concerned with anything over 8K because home stereos weren't producing anything above 8K at that point. So it's like it's not musical information. Like the highest point on a piano is like 10K, I think. So we're talking about an octave where it's literally just air moving through the airwaves. So we're just looking for the psychoacoustic effect of just having the air move past our face, basically. Um, and within like kind of like modern electronica, modern dance, it's a it's a big part of the sound. Yeah, for sure. All right. If you are just popping in, this is a ton of open studio. If you've been working on a track and you would like some fresh perspective on your mix from an audio engineer, you can send it to a ton of records at gmail.com and I will give it a listen and help you dial in this mix. There are some rules and regulations scrolling at the top of the screen if you just want to give those a read before you send it in. And yeah, it's been a good day here. I hope everyone else is having a good one. Best that you can do. Nothing in the inbox right now. So while we wait, there's just good old dog cam. Guinness is very good and generally just asleep. So we can all just enjoy dog cam for a moment. For a moment. If you're just popping in, this is a ton of open studio here every single day starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you would like some fresh perspective on your mix, you can send it to my email at absolutely any time. Email's right down there. And we will give it a listen and help dial in that mix. And if you're catching this on Facebook, just know that I don't really get active Facebook notifications. So if you want to chat, just head on over to twitch.tv/Atonuv or hit me up at my email. Uh, Cool. Yeah, demo loop, get some sleep. And dial in this track. I'd love to hear it if it gets even better. It's also in a very good place right now. And yeah, I'd love to master it. That would be very cool. But have a good one. All right. It has been a really, really solid night here. This is a ton of open studio. Looks like we don't have anything in the inbox at this moment, but if you are just dropping by and want some fresh perspective on your mix, you can send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. It's the email right down there. There are guidelines for sending stuff in up at the top of the screen. Just give those a read. And if you are catching this on Facebook, just note that Facebook is spotty about pushing like live notifications to me. So email me or head on over to Twitch if you can. It's twitch.tv/Atonuv. And then we can like reliably chat. And at any point, if you have an audio question or anything, feel free to say hey, and we can figure out what's going on in your life. For anyone who might be popping in, this is a ton of open studio here every single day, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern. At any time, if you want some fresh perspective on your track from an audio engineer, you can send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. It's this email right down there. There are some guidelines for sending stuff at the top of the screen. If you're catching this on Facebook, just note I don't really get Facebook notifications on live videos, so head on over to the Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Atonuv, or email me at that email address. Tonight's been fun. Tonight's been solid. We got to deep dive on a track. That's always fun. Uh, got to talk about microphones. It's a guilty pleasure. I'll just go ahead and hang out a little bit longer, see what else comes up. And Ian, I don't know if you're still around, but if like schizoid like back and forth was not good earlier, we could totally dial in some other stuff, figuring out those mics and all that. If or if you've got a good idea, you know, if you're all set, that's awesome too. If you're just popping in, this is a Ton of Open Studio. If you've got some stuff that you've been working on and would like some fresh perspective from an audio engineer, you could just send it to atonuvrecords@gmail.com. I will give it a listen and help you dial in this mix. In between tracks at this moment, it's been a really solid night so far. If something comes in, I will happily take a listen. And in between tracks, it is stream tradition to just turn on Dog Cam, watch Guinness be a very, very good sleepy boy. You know, just a little bit of relaxation for whatever you might need some relaxation for. All right. That's another solid night in the books, I would say. Let's go ahead and call it for the evening. I'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, and, the night after that, and the night after that. Hope everyone is doing well, and keep on working on those mixes. I will see you tomorrow.